The price of pride. Pride can destroy what love builds. The Obika estate stood like royalty carved into red earth. Tall iron gates welcomed only the elite, and the house behind them, grand, palatial, and intimidating, was the envy of Enugu. Everything about the compound spoke of status. From the marble lions that guarded the front steps to the peacocks that wandered the lush gardens, nothing about the Obika name whispered, it roared. And yet, in one of the tall upper chambers, where the sun painted the walls orange each evening, lived a woman drowning in silence. Amoka, Chief Obika's only daughter. The jewel of his lineage. A woman of ethereal beauty, delicate grace, and fierce intellect. From childhood, she was taught to speak only when it was calculated, to walk as if royalty followed, to smile only with measured softness. Her hair was always braided in perfection, her skin always polished with gold-laced oils. But inside, deep inside, was a longing no luxury could quiet. She craved something real. She had no intention of going to the Nsaka village fair that year. But boredom, and perhaps fate, nudged her. Disguised in a simple wrapper and sandals, without her usual entourage, she slipped past the palace gates and into the chaotic hum of village life. The fair was alive, children chased painted masks, elders drank palm wine and debated politics, women danced with baskets balanced on their heads. But what pulled her was the quiet, a strange calm she felt as she wandered toward the back of the artisan section. There, under a canvas stretched between two trees, stood a world carved in wood. Her breath caught. There were sculptures of drummers frozen mid-beat. A blind mother with her arms outstretched, searching for her child. A girl weeping into her own shadow. The carvings were raw, imperfect, yet heartbreakingly alive. And then she saw her. A wooden sculpture, life-sized, of a woman wrapped in ochre, eyes lifted in stubborn pride, lips trembling as though she'd just swallowed her tears. Amoka didn't have to ask who it was. She knew. She came from a dream I had, a voice said behind her. Deep, calm, unapologetically male. She turned. He stood tall, though not as tall as the men she knew. His dreadlocks were tied back, skin dark and smooth like polished onyx, his shirt stained with wood dust and sweat. But it was his eyes that struck her, they held stories, and pain, and something old, as if he had lived many lives already. I'm Chuka, he said simply, offering his hand with no hesitation, no bow, no performance. And so it began. In the weeks that followed, Amoka returned. Again and again. She told no one. She didn't ride in her father's car. Instead, she walked partway and took a kiki. She wore plain wrappers and cheap slippers. She removed her earrings, hid her polished nails, and brought roasted groundnuts in her bag, like any other village girl. And Chuka. He welcomed her with quiet eyes and deep laughter. He told her stories of the ancestors, recited forgotten proverbs, and taught her how to feel the grain of the wood before carving. He never called her princess or madam. He called her Neoma, good mother, because he said she carried strength in her silence. They sat by the river often, where the breeze cooled their skin and the birds gossiped above. I used to believe people like you only married men in suits, he once said, half joking. I used to believe people like you had nothing to teach me, she replied, resting her head on his shoulder. He kissed her once there, beside the water. And it was not fire or urgency, it was home. But love is never safe when it defies tradition. Chief Obika began to hear rumors. First from servants. Then from relatives. Then from town gossip. She's been seen in Saka. Near the river. With a carver boy. A what? A sculptor, sir. He summoned her to his private chambers. No elders. Just the weight of his voice. Amoka, who is this boy? She didn't lie. She looked him in the eye and said, his name is Chuka. Chuka, her father repeated like it tasted bitter. A man who carves wood with dirty hands. A man who sees me, she replied quietly. The silence between them grew sharp. You are the daughter of Chief Obika. You don't belong with men who live in huts. I belong where I am loved. He slammed his staff on the floor. You are betrothed, Amoka. To Obiora, the commissioner's son. You will marry him in 3 months. No, she whispered. Yes, he roared. You will not shame this family. That night, she ran to Chuka's workshop, tears falling freely. They want me to marry someone else, she said, choking. Then we leave, he replied. I'll take you anywhere. We'll start over. But she hesitated. She saw the dirt under his nails. The small hurt. The uncertainty in his eyes. And she saw her father's palace, her name, her duty. Give me time, she begged. Just a little more time. Chuka looked at her then, really looked. And she knew he saw her conflict. Her fear. Time is not a gift we control, he said quietly. A week later, during the New Yam festival, her father made his move. The village square was packed, dancers, elders, tourists, press. Amid the celebration, Chief Obika stood near Chuka's stall, surrounded by his entourage. Amoka was there. She had begged him not to do this. But Obika did not listen. He summoned Chuka to come forward. I hear you dream of marrying my daughter, Obika said, loud enough for the crowd. Let us see what kind of man you are. Chuka stepped forward, silent. Obika pointed at a sculpture of lovers embracing. This is your worth. Then he lifted the sculpture and smashed it on the ground. A loud crack. The crowd gasped. Amoka screamed. Chuka said nothing. He didn't even flinch. He simply turned to her. Eyes full of betrayal, of heartbreak, of understanding. And then he walked away. She never saw him again. She searched. Went to his hut. Waited at the river. Sent letters. But Chuka was gone. Vanished like mist at dawn. Her father didn't speak of it again. Neither did her mother. 2 months later, the wedding was announced. Obiora was rich. Educated. Polished. And cold. The wedding was glamorous, silver lace, coral beads, horsemen dancing through the compound. Guests came from Abuja, Ghana, even London. Amoka smiled through all of it. Her lips moved, but her soul didn't. Years passed. She bore 2 children. She ran a charity. She appeared in magazines. Her husband grew wealthier. They traveled. Built houses. Acquired titles. But she never laughed again. Not like she did by the river. Then, one quiet afternoon in Lagos, she stepped into a gallery for a charity event. And she saw him. Not in person, in spirit. Sculptures lined the room. Towering. Emotional. Reverent. Her face appeared in several. Once as a queen. Once as a mother. Once as a broken bird. Then she found it, woman in waiting. The same defiant eyes. The trembling lips. Tears slid down her cheeks. The artist's plaque read, Chuka Nwosu, international sculptor. Perez Biennale winner. He had risen. Without her. Beyond her. He had turned his pain into legacy. That night, back in her hotel suite, Amoka sat alone. Her husband asleep in the next room. Her phone buzzed with congratulations from political wives and society friends. But she didn't respond. She just sat, holding the gallery brochure, her tears staining the pages. I'm sorry, she whispered. Not to anyone who could hear. But to the boy who had offered her love without pride, and whom pride had cost her forever. Lesson: pride can destroy what love builds. When your heart knows its truth, silence is betrayal.